Hello, this is King Rex coming at you with winning tips for Monopoly. If you use these tips, you should win at Monopoly more than you currently do. I'll just get started here with the first tip I have for you. Tip number one, do not use the speed die. If this came with your Monopoly set, take it out of the box. You can put it in a Monopoly set you don't use as much or a different game, just get it out of there. It does two things. It changes the probabilities quite a bit in the game. It also makes the game far more luck-based. In fact, I'd say this is worse than using house rules as far as the impact on the game. So get rid of the speed die. Also, count your houses and hotels. Make sure you got 12 hotels. 32 houses. Take the other ones out of the game. Put them in a different game for safekeeping in case you ever need to add them later. Number two, do not play by house rules. All house rules generally do one of two things or both. They either lengthen the game or make it more luck-based, and most of them do both. If you want to win using strategy, you want to limit the amount of impact luck has on the game, and house rules make luck crazy on the game. So get rid of the house rules. The only one I would keep would be one where if you put in where people had to pay a rent when they landed on a property, so they're not allowed to skip out on rents, because that's what starts a lot of fights in monopolies. People trying to find ways to get out of paying the rent, and sometimes they do it in ways that go against the actual official rules of the game. Play by the official rules, maybe don't let them skip out on rents. The game would be much more skill-based that way, which is what you want because you're going to be the most skilled player at the table. This is a big one. Almost any Monopoly champion, and they actually do have championships, will tell you to buy every property you land on. Don't let properties go. In the game of Monopoly, properties are actually undervalued because they give you bargaining power beyond everything else. It's not just about collecting the small rents that are on there. You want to use the bargaining power to get a group and exploit that group to win the game. When I say group, I mean a full color group. It's not a bad idea, and I think this is a good one. Overpay for properties. If someone lands on a property early, a lot of people don't like the utilities. They don't like the railroads. They don't like the properties at the first side of the board, or even the light purple or pink ones that are like St. Charles and that. Overpay for those. If someone lands on Vermont Avenue and they don't like Vermont Avenue, offer them $150. Pay them $200. Maybe go up to $250. I wouldn't go crazy overpaying. Like I heard someone say pay $350 to $400 for a light blue. If you do that, you'll probably run out of money before you even make it around the game board. But give them $200 for a light blue, even if they mortgage it right away. You still have that as a bargaining chip down the road. You never know. You might get the other two light blues yourself. If you have that Monopoly quick, you'll probably win if you can get it up and running quick. Auctions. Do not let properties go to auction when you land on them unless you absolutely have to, generally. There are three good reasons. One is that you simply can't afford to buy the property, or it's not worth what you'd have to do to afford it. Don't tear down houses. Even though Boardwalk's here, I'm going to use one of the greens as an example. Let's say you own Pacific, someone else has North Carolina, and you land on Pennsylvania Avenue, and the only way to afford it is to start tearing houses down. Let someone else have that. You don't need that. If you're mortgaged pretty much to the hilt, you just simply can't afford it because you can't even mortgage anymore. Let's say the only unmortgaged property you have is Marvin Gardens. You have $100 in your hand. You can't buy it unless you sell something. Don't sell something valuable for a property. It's probably just going to sit in your hand, and you're not going to get the color group for. So if you can't afford it, don't. You have to let it go to auction. Secondly, if you feel like other players won't be able to bid high on it, and you think you can get it at a deal, if it looks like no one else is going to be able to go for $200, say for Pennsylvania Avenue, why pay $320? See if you can get it for less than $320. But I would only do this if it's if the property group is already blocked somehow. If one player owns the other two, don't let it go to auction unless you have to. They'll pay a premium for that property and probably win it. If you have the other two, definitely just buy it at face value and get your Monopoly. Don't try to be cheap at that point. The last time would be, I would say, to do an auction. Let's say, like in this case, this is a two-player game here. You see the yellow token, the dog, has Atlantic Avenue out of the yellow group. The blue token, the shoe, has Marvin Gardens. So if you landed on Ventnor, if you're one of these two players, and that wasn't a group you were looking to do, or if you just didn't want to buy it, you could let that go to auction. That being said, there are a few rules of how much you should pay at auction. Number one, you should always pay minimally, no matter what, at least the mortgage value, because you can turn that property over and get the money right back out of it. So if you have $200 in your hand and Boardwalk's up for auction and you can get it for $200, pay the $200, get Boardwalk. As soon as you need to, you can flip Boardwalk over and get $200 right back out. If you get it for less than mortgage value, you'd be a fool not to get it because you're making money by buying it even if you mortgage it immediately. My rule of thumb on mortgage on auctions is pay the mortgage value plus 2 to 3 rents, and you should be all right. Someone would probably not let Boardwalk go for less than 400. I don't think that property would unless no one else could simply pay that much. But in this case, 2 to 3 rents at $50 a piece would mean you'd pay 200 mortgage value and 100 to 150 extra because you could expect to either get that from rents or save it from someone else not having it. So if you didn't really want Boardwalk, you can apply this principle to other properties around the game. It's worth $300 to $350 in an auction, I would say. I'd probably at least go that much. But since it's a two-property group, you're probably going to have to buy it because someone else is probably going to have the other one. So it'd be more of a rule for, like, say, Pennsylvania Avenue. 160 is the mortgage value. The rents are $28 each. 2 to 3 rents is going to put you $210 to $230 generally, maybe a little bit more. $210 to $230, safe place to buy that property. You're saving between $110 and $90 on it. And you can always mortgage it for $160. You could save a couple rents. When it comes to mortgaging, there is a way you should mortgage properties. You should start at go and mortgage all the color group properties that you're blocked in first. Blocked means another player, not the bank, but another player owns a property in that group. So if you own Mediterranean and someone else owns Baltic, Mediterranean would be the first property you'd mortgage. Let's say you own 2 light blues, but the bank has a third one, you would skip over that group because you could still get the other light blue one out of the bank. If you own a purple and someone else owns another purple, you would mortgage that property. You'd work your way around through all of your colored deeds that way. The next thing you would do would be you'd probably go back and mortgage those 2 light blues because you're not going to get much rent off of those. You'd probably be better doing that. Even in mortgaging, say, a railroad or a utility, I would mortgage a single railroad first, then a single utility, then a double railroad where you have 2, then both utilities, then it would be the 3 railroads after that, or 4. But there's kind of a caveat here. If you have a full color group that's completely undeveloped, and let's say it's the red group, for example, where they average, or even the orange group, red or orange, either way, you're looking at about $200 a piece. The orange group's 200 plus 180 plus 180. I guess the red group would be 240, 220, 220. So you could get $680 out of that. Let's say you needed $600, not 600. You get $340. Let's say you needed $300. You have 4 railroads, or you have the full red group with no houses or hotels on it. If that's all you have that's not mortgaged, you're probably better off keeping the railroads all unmortgaged and leaving the mortgaging the reds, even though you'd want to build on them, because the railroads would give you the money to unmortgage those reds and build on them. So if it's 4 railroads, I probably wouldn't mortgage those. So I'd probably go, like, say, 3 railroads, then a full color group, then 4 railroads. But the last thing you ever want to do with getting money from the bank is to tear down houses. So say you had the 3 reds with 1 house each on them, or the 4 railroads. You had to make your decision as to tear the houses down and mortgage the reds, or mortgage the railroads and mortgage the railroads. Even though you're not going to get as much rent out of them, because when you start tearing houses down, you lose half your value. So you'd only get, and if you rebuild the house, it's going to cost you. So if you tear a house off a red one, you're going to get $75. It's going to cost you $150 to rebuild that. You're losing $75. If you mortgage a railroad, you'll get $100 for it. And you have to pay $110 to unmortgage it, so you only cost yourself $10. So tear down houses last. Then I'd say 4 railroads. Then I'd say full color groups. Then I would say 3 railroads. Then 2 utilities, 2 railroads, 1 utility, 1 railroad. And this is based on return on investment. Then your properties. You'd actually unmortgage in reverse order. The reason why you start at go working your way around is the properties, the rent goes up as a percentage of the cost of the property. So the return on investment's better on properties as you go around the board. Go to jail. Going to jail in Monopoly is actually a good thing. Most people do realize that at the end of the game, there's lots of houses and hotels on the board. You just want to sit in jail for a couple of turns. If you go to jail a whole bunch of times in a row, it's going to save you money. So you actually want to save a couple turns in jail, hope that someone else hits your property. But early in the game, it's actually good too because of the way the game is. The space people are most likely to be in at the end of their turn is the jail space. You're eventually going to have to rule from that space to move out. If you're not just visiting, same thing. Which makes it that the properties that are closest to Park Place tend to be landed on the most. So if you go to jail early in the game, yes, it costs you $50 to pay out right away, but you're going to rule out and land on those properties that are the best properties in the game. The color groups that are the best, if you want to think of it, think of the hot colors, orange, red, and yellow, and they go right around the board. They're the 3 best groups to own in most games. They're the ones between jail and the go to jail square. And in fact, I put the light purple, sometimes called pink, as the 4th best group. So going to jail and going right through all those properties again, and then we're the better railroad, 2 of the better railroads too. Short line's the one that's the weakest. Going to jail, nighttime it's not a good thing. And if you're in this time frame where most or all the properties are sold, but no houses or hotels have been built yet, then you want to go around the board to collect money. Other than that, sitting in jail is a good thing, or even going to jail and paying the $50 to get out is a good thing to go across those better properties. But if you're just wanting to move around the board, collect the money, you don't want to have to pay the $50 or be reversed back into jail, which happens a lot of times. Because if you hit the go to jail sign, you're going back half the board to jail. Knowing probabilities, this is a very important. Basically, when you roll the dice, your 1 in 6 chance you're going to roll a 7, which is a decently high probability, but if you expand it out a little bit to rolling between a 6 and an 8, that goes to about a 44% probability. But if you do it from a 5 to a 9, that's a 2/3 probability that you're going to roll between a 5 and a 9. If you're thinking, how can this actually help me? It can help you in the game because you know what's the next likely roll. If you know you're likely to hit someone's color group, you can hold off on building houses so you don't build them, then have to tear them down because you hit one of their properties and costing yourself half that money. Also, you can use it the other way. If you have 2 opponents sitting, let's say, on Virginia Avenue, and you own the Reds and you have 2 houses on each of them, you have enough money to build an extra house on one. Generally speaking, you'd want to put that on Illinois because it's the premier property. But if you have the people 7 spots away from Kentucky Avenue, 2 people, because that's 7 from Virginia, you're going to want to put that on Kentucky. Indiana is 9 spaces away, which is less likely to happen. That's only 4 out of 6, which is 1 in 9 instead of 1 in 6. And then Illinois is 10 spaces away. That's not very likely to occur from Virginia Avenue, even in 2 rolls. So you're going to want to put the extra house. You're going to want to gamble that house and say, okay, normally speaking, this is the rule, but I know at this point in time to go against it because of the probability. So you can use the probabilities in your favor if you know I'm probably going to roll a 5 or a 9. I'm sitting right in range of their houses. Maybe I'll wait to see if I can skip past this before I build, so I don't have to pull those down and cost myself a few $100s in the process. Know the cards. This is another thing, kind of goes to another probabilities. If you look at the cards, you'll notice that the orange cards, which are the chance cards, tend to send you places. Of these 16 cards, 10 of them send you to another spot on the board. It's very important to know where you will be set by these cards. I think it's also very important to keep track of which cards came up out of at least these 10 cards. You will know if Advance to Illinois, Advance to Boardwalk, Advance to St. Charles places come up if you've been paying attention. Go back 3 spaces can send you to either the income tax if you hit it on the first side of the board, New York Avenue if you hit it on the third side of the board, or a community chest if you hit it on the fourth side of the board. It does seem to happen a lot that people get pulled back to New York, though, with that card. It's not a certain, but that chance I think is more likely to get hit just because of the way it lines up with jail, being like 12 spaces away. Nearest railroad cannot send you to short line. It can send you to any of the other railroads. Same with nearest utility, it can go to either one. The other card you really want to watch in this set is the repair bill. You have to pay the general repairs, $25 and $100. That one, if you have a lot of houses, let's say you have 8 houses. Well, if you have 12 houses, that's $400. So that one can get pretty expensive. These other ones aren't as important. The get out of jail free card can sometimes be out of the game because when someone gets it, usually they forget they have it and pay to get out of jail anyway. So you're looking at, I'd say, about a 1 in 3 chance of going somewhere with these cards. Then you have this chance to have the hotel bill. Then there's 2 that pay you, the $150 here, and 50 here. The chairman of the board can be pretty bad if there's a lot of players. Import tax, which they changed what it is now. I think it's called speeding fines, only 15. So just remember, when you hit chance, the chances are you're going somewhere. Pretty good chance, about 2/3. On the flip side, if you hit community chest, there's about a 60% chance you will be receiving money and about a 20% chance you will be paying money. Then there's a couple that send you places. There's a get out of jail free card. And then you have this house and hotel bill, which is the one you really want to keep track of. Kind of try to keep in mind if this one's come up because it can be a doozy. The other ones really aren't that big. If you want to remember to go to jail and the Advance to go out of this one, try to remember them separate from each other though, because then you might know what cards left in the chance. If you can remember all these cards, it can give you an advantage. But at least try to remember the chance cards when they send you somewhere and the 2 repair bills would be my advice on knowing the cards. Trading properties, I couldn't actually find a good picture that shows people trading properties, but what you want to do when it comes time to trade properties, you have to look at basically what's going on in the game. If you don't have a lot of money, you're probably not going to want to get these green ones unless you're getting them without giving up a monopoly or the other person has like hardly any money when you're giving them a monopoly, because these are expensive to build. They're $200 each for a house. But basically, when you trade properties, the strategy I would go for a lot would be if you can secure either an orange, a red, or a yellow group. If you can't do that, then maybe depending on how much money's in the game, I'd say either the purple, but you got to build them quick. Maybe the green if there's just a ton of money in the game because people went around the board a bunch of time and everyone's sitting there with several $100s in their hands. The light blues can also win the game. The dark blues can, but they don't get landed on much. But we'll go over that in a different video. But just try to make sure when trading properties you're getting at least as good or a better deal. Also, check on the railroads. If you can get 3 or 4 railroads, even if you get these greens, every time someone hits a railroad, if you have 4 of them, you're getting another house. So the railroads can be very powerful when building properties, and even the utilities can help a little bit with an average of $70 each. So just make sure you're getting a good deal in trading properties. Don't give someone Monopoly if you're not getting one in return, unless you're getting something that gives you a Monopoly or you need money to build on an already existing Monopoly. Developing your properties. Pretty much one of the big things a lot of people like to do is what's called a housing shortage, where they try to hog up as many houses as they can because there's only 32. So if you have two groups, you can put 20 to 24 houses out there. I guess it would be less than 20 if you have the two place groups, but you can kind of create a bit of a housing shortage, especially in games with 3 or 4 players or more. But when building, if you're building a group that doesn't cost a lot to build, like the first side or second side of the board, try to build us up to 3 houses very quickly. If you're building a property that costs more to build, you may have to go 1 house at a time and slowly build so you don't put yourself at too much risk. This is why a lot of people don't like the dark green or a green or really no light green, just the green ones, because it takes a while to build them up. And like I said, create housing shortages if you can, especially if you have a lesser groups. If you can somehow finagle to get the light blue and the brown, put 4 houses on each of them, that's 20 houses out of the game. There's only 12 left. And at that point, you might actually want to get monopolies for the remaining players so they're all fighting over the remaining houses. It may sound counterproductive, but it might work to your benefit because they only have 1 or 2 houses each. They probably won't be able to compete with your 4 house properties. The last thing I'm saying is be gracious and have fun. You definitely want to be the type of person other players want to deal with. You don't want to be the person that they don't want to win. So don't rub things in people's faces. Try to make deals that are mutually beneficial. If you make a deal, show why it's mutually beneficial to the other player. If you are getting the better end. If you're annoying or people don't like you, they're not going to want to lose to you, and they may actually do something to help some other player win. Maybe they'll sell them properties for next to nothing when they know they can't win just so you can't win. Or maybe they'll go bankrupt when they really don't have to. I mean, if you get someone's property and have enough money in your hand to pay, maybe they just hand them the money and go bankrupt when they could have mortgaged 1 or 2 properties. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe they sell them something for a song, help them get another monopoly. So if you're gracious and people like you in the game, they probably won't do something to get you. So I say be gracious, have fun. It's about having fun. Hope these tips help you in your next Monopoly game. Thank you for watching. Like, share, and subscribe, and have a great day. Don't forget to comment if you want to comment.